Fed Chair Janet Yellen set to speak at the Fed Summit in Jackson Hole later this morning. Peter Barnes is in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, with Atlanta Federal Reserve President Dennis Lockhart. Hey, Peter.
Well, hey, Sandra, thanks. And Dennis Lockhart from Atlanta, thanks for joining us once again on Fox Business. Well, obviously, the big question is what's going to happen with rates. And we are going to be hearing from Janet Yellen this morning. And what kind of comments from her might help clarify the path forward on rate hikes?
Well, one thing to remember is that I think Janet will mention that she's speaking for herself. She's not speaking for the committee, and we'll convene later in September. And I think she has the option to signal her preference or not. Mm-hmm. You know, and so we'll have to wait and see. I haven't seen an advanced copy of the speech, so I really don't know whether she feels she's seen enough to signal
enough
something.
Progress in the economy, yeah, to possibly go and raise in September. You have said that you can't rule out the possibility of raising in September. You said that last week. What kind of economic data would you have to see between now and the end of September to feel comfortable discussing or voting for a rate hike then?
Well, let me give you my sense of the economy very quickly. My sense of the economy is that the GDP number that we saw for the second quarter really is not the total story.
Yeah, the 1%, now 1.1% with the revision this morning.
If you look within that number, you see the effect of inventories. Mm-hmm. And if you exclude that and you look at real final sales, you see a more encouraging picture, a picture of a kind of steady, moderate growth economy. Not impressive, but nonetheless steady. Mm-hmm. If I see by the run-up to the FOMC meeting data that are kind of consistent with that picture, my position is we ought to have a serious discussion. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean necessarily even I am going to support it, but it deserves a serious discussion.
Mm-hmm. And as far as the labor market, the unemployment rate and inflation, what, tracking on your outlook and making progress, enough progress to start?
Tracking my outlook, tracking a kind of steady, moderate pace of expansion, and no surprises.
So we're all focused on September because it's the next meeting, but there is a meeting in November and December. As far as if you don't move in September, there does seem to be a chorus growing among your colleagues that at least as long as the economy is making progress, sometime this year the Fed should move, and you said at least one move this year. Is that
would be appropriate? You know, providing we see the continuing pace of growth and the continuing progress toward our objectives.
On the international outlook, that was something that the Fed said it was watching closely. We're now a couple months out of Brexit. That seems to have faded, but China's still out there with some slow growth. What about international developments, you know, Europe and others? Do you have any concerns about those?
Well, I always am paying attention to risk possibilities out there that could develop. Brexit was one, of course, and that was very dramatic for a while, but it seems to have settled down, and we're in my case, I'm more focused on domestic issues at the moment. China's slowdown continues to have some frictions in their economy that have to be worked out. Banks in Europe, particularly Italian banks, are on the radar screen. But none of these are really dominant in my thinking at the moment. I'm really focused domestically.
One last question. Do you have any concerns about asset bubbles? You know, we're seeing the markets at record highs, the bond markets are at record highs, and I've asked some of your colleagues about that. Any concerns about that and potential for financial instability and overheating or anything?
You know, always paying attention to the possibility of some kind of really turbulent period developing. Yes, the equity markets certainly are by historic standards at high levels and high valuations. I think we have to watch it carefully,
All
but
right.
I'm not calling it a bubble by any stretch of the imagination.
All right, Dennis Lockhart of the Atlanta Fed. Thanks for joining us
Peter.
this morning on Fox Business. All right, Sandra, back to you.
All right, good stuff. Peter Barnes, thank you for that.